Business owners, entrepreneurs, and even my ministry leaders, I got a question for you. Have you often found yourself hitting a ceiling where you can't quite grow your business or ministry past a certain area because you're not great in that area? Well, on today's edition of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry, I'm going to give you guys 4 ways to become amazingly great at something right after this. What's going on, everybody? My name is Glenn P. Brooks Jr., author, speaker, coach, back for another edition of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry. And I want to challenge you in a particular area. Most of us have gotten to where we are, either in business or ministry, because to be really honest, you've been amazing at something, right? But here's the challenge. What got you here is not going to get you there. I'm going to say that again. What got you here will not get you there, meaning where you want to go or grow your business or ministry. I want to take you into a master class where actually it's our lunch and learn we do every Wednesday with our M.A.P.S Master Class. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to help them unpack the idea of asking the right questions and what are the things I need to do to become amazingly great at something. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to grow past the ceiling that you're at, you're going to have to become amazing at something else. I hope this helps you. We'll be back at the end to tell you a little bit more about how we can serve you. So we're going to talk about the 4 ways to become amazingly great at something. In this case, your business. Number 1, you need to first learn it by reading or listening to others who know how to do it. In order for you to become amazing at something, one of the first things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to read about it or sit in a room with someone who's mastered it. Promise you. Now, let me tell you how I learn, and you may be different than me. I do not learn by reading books cover to cover. I don't take in concepts that way. I don't learn that way. I'm not going to sit down and read a manual, but here's what I will do. I'll call up someone who I know thinks that way, and I'll get them to talk to me about how that thing helped them. I will buy lunch for a person who's mastered a particular thing just to hear them talk about their process and how they built that. Because what I'm listening for is how does that apply to me? I'm not listening for what they did. I'm listening for how did they approach it. And so one of the things that's going to really help you to be able to become super amazing at something is sitting down long enough. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, so that you're really, really super clear. I know this is sort of the pot calling the kettle black, as my grandmother would say. Because the truth of the matter is that I'm nowhere near detailed oriented enough to even feel confident to tell you this, but I had to become detail oriented enough to get the information that I need. And one of the things that I would do is I would sit down with people who thought like that. Number 1 was my wife. My wife is extremely organized in terms of how she thinks and how she processes. And the truth of the matter is that she told me something a long time ago. I'll never forget. She said, you probably will never become as good as I am at, and it was an Excel spreadsheet. I was trying to figure out a formula to it, and it was driving me crazy. And I absolutely was ready to throw the computer out the freaking window. And she said to me, here's the problem. The problem is that I've spent 20 years mastering what you're trying to figure out. So here's what you do. You let me help you by doing it and then showing you what I did and then setting it up in a way for you to only have to do a few things to keep this going. It worked. She created a template for me and I was able to use the template. I understood remotely how it worked, and therefore I was able to execute on it because I got in the room with a person who had mastered that particular thing. Then here's what I want you to do, guys. Now, again, we said, first of all, number 1, you have to master it, or you have to first learn it by reading or listening to others who know how to do it. But more importantly, especially by you actually doing it. So it's not enough for me to go to a person like Cherie and say, hey, how do I do this thing? Because she's mastered it. I have to now do it. I have to do the thing that she's taught me. So one of the challenges is for most entrepreneurs is that they don't know the right questions to ask. And that's because they've never done the thing that they're trying to get an answer on. So what you do is you simply grab a book, and the bookstore is full of them. And this is, as a coach, one of the great things I'm able to do is that, generally speaking, I look over my shoulder. If I haven't read it, I've wrote it. right? So I know a lot of things. I haven't done all of those things, but I can tell you where you need to go to get that answer. And so here's what I want you to do. After you do it, I want you to, number 2, do it some more. Write that down. After you start doing the thing that you're trying to master, I want you to do it some more. Listen to me very, very carefully, guys. At this particular point, you're going to begin to start understanding something. Anybody ever have a person ask you for directions and you could show them, but you couldn't articulate it and tell them? I'm going to submit it's because you've not mastered how to get from point A to point B. Here's how you know you've mastered it. You'll be able to tell them what street to turn on, when, how many lights they're going to, because you've mastered going that way, paying attention to the details that it took. Not super hard because you travel that way every day. But because it wasn't important to you, listen to me really carefully, to know the streets. Why? Because you're traveling it. I don't need to know how many lights because I go that way every day. The problem is you will need to know it if you have to tell somebody else how to do it. And now you get exposed when the person on the corner who's from out of town is able to say, this happened to me at a gas station recently. A guy said, hey, do you know how to get to so-and-so? I said, no, I don't, but hold on, let's learn together. I pulled out my phone and I put it in Waze. And I got the step-by-step directions and I said, here's what I have mastered. I've mastered the app called Waze. I can't tell you by name how to do it, but I can help you because I've mastered the thing that you need in order to be able to help you make it happen. And that guy was so appreciative. And I even took it a step further. The guy looked like he's old enough to be my dad. And I actually wrote it down for him because I could tell that this stuff was just like so Greek to him. He was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, who is like really? I don't know, Waze, is that a person? What is that? Is that a street? So I wrote it down for him. And what was super amazing is that he was so gracious. I mean, with all kinds of gratitude, he was like, sir, I appreciate this so much. And I was able to help him do that because I had mastered one part of that in order to be able to do it. Number 3, I want you to listen to this very carefully. It's going to sound pretty mundane. I want you to do it some more. Number 3, do it some more. In other words, I want you to practice doing that thing so much that you have become good at least a part of it. Because now that I know how to swim, because I went to someone who had mastered it, now the question becomes, how do I learn to swim for endurance? I can ask that question and get the right answer because I've mastered the technique of getting the ability to get in the pool, the fear, overcoming that, the technique of a freestyle stroke, right? The technique of a breaststroke and the technique of a backstroke. That I've mastered. What I haven't mastered is the endurance to swim lap after lap after lap after lap after lap. So the question becomes now, how do I swim for endurance? Now, when I use Google, when I use YouTube, when I use a person, I'm asking a how-to question based on what I already know. How do I swim for endurance? Does that make sense, guys? And so at this particular point, what I'm doing is I'm actually narrowing my search. So if I get a person who is a world-class swimmer, I'm not asking them, how do you swim? I'm asking you, Michael Phelps, he's from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. Chances are likely that we could potentially run into each other at a random restaurant, right? I run into Michael Phelps and I can ask him the question, Michael Phelps, I got a question for you. How do you keep what is it that, what are you eating? How are you able to swim that long? And he could probably tell me in a few short things. And by the way, I asked a person who is a great friend of mine, great swimmer. And you know what she said? She said, here's how you build your endurance. You swim just a little bit further every time you get in the pool. Every single time you get in the pool, your goal is to go another lap or another half a lap or another step, an extra stroke. The challenge is that your body just simply is not used to that, and you haven't done it enough. So number one is, first, you must learn it by reading or listening to others who know it or how to do it, and then you have to begin doing it. Number two, you have to do it some more, and at this particular point, it's going to help you to understand. Number three, you're going to have to do it some more. At this point, you've been doing it for a couple of weeks, couple of months. It may even lead into years that you've been doing that particular piece. And number four, you're going to have to do it some more so that you can now learn from the mistakes. The people that I get to help in our M.A.P.S Master Class on a regular basis are people who are brilliant at what they do. The challenge is when they meet me, they've hit a plateau, and either A, they're doing too many things and so they don't have clarity, or B, they can't scale the thing that they've mastered because they've never had to scale. Because I've scaled my business, I can help you think through that. But I'm not going to help you think through it by doing it for you. I'm going to help you think through it by telling you what book to read, what app to get, where to go, who to call, what to spend, not spend, who should you get in a room with, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? And then as you begin to do it, here's what becomes super amazing. And I need you guys to hear this. People ask me all the time, well, I'll just hire somebody to do that. Here's the problem with that. You'll become the person who hired the person. And because you hired someone to do something that you don't know how to do, you can't even now check the checker. And there's no place more fearful to do that than in business, because now you've got somebody running your finances in your business and you don't know a thing about finances. That's a problem. That is a problem. Red Fox, God rest his soul, I remember watching him on a video, and he said, while his things were being taken out of his home by the IRS, he said, but I hired somebody to do that. And you don't think that the person you hire will steal from you. Well, here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. Hard for you to steal from me when I know what you're doing. Real hard. Now, I may not be able to do it as well as you do, but I know that this and this don't add up. Oprah Winfrey still signs all of her checks physically. And many of us, I mean, she's a billionaire. She doesn't, I'm sure she doesn't know a lot of the intricacies of the business she owns. But here's what she does do. She makes you bring it to her before she signs off on it. And so at least she's aware of it. So I hope these things have helped. These are 4 amazingly great ways for you to be able to become super amazing at what you do. Number one, you got to learn it by reading it. You got to get familiar enough with it by reading it or getting in a room with somebody who has mastered it. Then you have to start doing what they've taught you. Number 2, you have to do it. And I mean, really get into it and decide you're going to do the work so that you can understand it. Number 3, you're going to do it some more so that you can get good at it. And number 4, you're going to do it some more so that you can learn from it. And when that happens, greatness begins to emulate. Now I know exactly who to hire. Now I know exactly what to pay. Now I know exactly when you're messing up. And now I know exactly how to correct you because I've mastered it enough to be able to keep you honest, if that makes any sense. Guys, at the end of the day, here's what I know to be true. We all need some help. Hope this information has helped you. Hope to see you back on the next edition of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry. So guys, I hope that added a ton of value to you, because at the end of the day, here's what I know. If you don't grow through certain ceilings and go through certain doors, you're not going to be able to scale and grow your business. I found that out in the last 5 years of doing business, Glenn P. Brooks Jr. LLC. Every new level required me to become amazingly good at something else. Now, the good news is you don't have to be great at that for very long in order to get movement. But you do have to be able to develop the kinds of things that it takes in order for you to sustain that. If you want to come grow with us in the M.A.P.S Master Class, we would love to have you. Do me a favor, click the description. There are links in the description where you can schedule a free discovery session with me. I'd love to get you in our Zoom room or on a Zoom call and just talk a little bit about how we can serve you if we're a fit. And if we are, love to invite you to come be a part of what we're doing. Here's what I know to be true. At the end of the day, you cannot get to any place of significance by yourself. Why? Because we all need some help. Y'all be good, and we'll talk soon. If any of this content has helped you today, anything that we're doing, I want to encourage you to please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Click the videos for more information, and we'll be back next week with another edition of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry.